Hello, everybody. I am back with country music's next big thing. Why? Because her next single is point proven of that. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but we're going to talk to her a little bit about her St. Louis background playing in these Nashville bars here today. Please give it up for a great Nashville artist, Stephanie Rabus. How you doing, Stephanie?
Hello, I'm doing really well. I'm very excited and honored to be here with you today.
Well, I'm excited and honored to have you. So, how did you get into music?
Well, pretty much from a very young age, I just loved to sing. I mean, I was singing along to little Disney movies and all of that. I didn't even really necessarily know that I could sing. I just enjoyed it. I had fun with it. And I think that there was something about matching that tone. Like I said, I didn't technically know that, but I think it must have been within me because at the age of 11, my dad actually joined a band as a drummer for an Elvis impersonator who happened to be our next door neighbor. How that kind of started was my dad was in the military back then, and we got stationed. He got stationed in Fort Huachuca, Arizona. So we ended up moving to Mesa, and that was where we met our friend Al Tulo, who was a Elvis impersonator. So he needed a drummer. My dad ended up joining, and then there would be nights where like the parents would all jam and hang out, next door. And the kids would run around. There was a bunch of kids. They had five, and my parents had four. And one day, they were jamming music over there, and I came over there and I said, "Can I see that microphone?" And they're like, "Okay." And I grabbed the microphone and I sang a cappella the song from The Little Mermaid, Part of Your World. And my parents were like, "What?" Like, she can actually sing. So I think I must have kind of had an idea. I knew I loved it, but I must have had an idea because I guess I had this inkling that I wanted to, show off. I don't know, not show off per se, but that I wanted to get on there and show them what I could do. And I felt like there was some confidence in that. So,
And thank you, Jerry, and shout out to brother
oh,
Jerry, Stephanie's dad, for hooking this up and for putting us together and telling us about her. And you also did an incredible interview with Jay Franzi as well that people can go see. What was it like getting to be interviewed by such a great podcast host?
oh my gosh. Well, that was also an honor. I mean, he was very easy to talk to, very down to earth, and considering all of the experience that he's had in the industry, all the people that he knows, it's like it was such an honor. I was like, wow, you can be overwhelmed in a situation like that, and he made it very easy not to be.
And his wonderful co-host Tiffany Mason also. She brings a bubbly side as well. So
Yeah.
check out Jay and Tiffany. They're recording right now as we speak. So
Oh,
Jay and
wow.
Tiffany, keep up the great work. And you have a debut album. Your debut album called My Time Now is out available now. But can you tell me what it was like recording that record for you?
It so it is my debut in the matter of like me as an independent artist. I mean, I've been an independent artist all these years, but what you may not know is I actually had another album many years ago with a small label that deal didn't really pan out to go well, but I did have an earlier album that was my true debut called Song and Dance, the Unplugged collection. And that was all acoustic songs, and it was very kind of traditional sounding. And that's a great record. It exists out there as well. You can find it on YouTube and all those places. But for me, as an independent artist, the first time that I really had creative control and some freedom to do what I wanted to do, and an album that was truly mine, I believe, was My Time Now. And that was 4 years ago. And I really just wanted to create an album that was real life stories of things that I've gone through. And well, there were a couple of songs that were a little bit more like fictional, but I had all these writing sessions for weeks and weeks, and we ended up with 18 songs of different things I kind of been through throughout my life. And ended up picking 11 songs. So, but it was really special because, like I said, I got to kind of tell stories of my life through that album and have it produced the way that I wanted to, with again that kind of modern feel, but with still like the true meaning of country music. So.
You, for the people listening at home when they discover your music, who would you say are some of your musical influences that help inspire your music?
Well, definitely my favorite singer and kind of main idol from, well, about that time, really, when I started singing, is Martina McBride. She's one that I really, really looked up to in range and just like the types of music, the types of songs that she did were very meaningful and just heartfelt things. So definitely her. And then, a lot of those other ladies back from the 90s, Faith Hill, Reba McEntire. But, I also had some other influences from other genres because I also am a very soulful singer. So I looked up to people like Whitney Houston and Aretha Franklin and people like that as well. Love Celine Dion, Christina Aguilera, all of them. And then, even some rock and roll like Pat Benatar and Heart and people like that. So it's a very wide range of influences, but it really comes down mostly to Martina McBride. And I do get compared to her a lot, which I'm okay with, but at the same time, I want people to hear me as me. So.
Well, I got a question for you. Is how are the St. Louis players playing where you grew up in St. Louis, Missouri and around there? How
Uh-huh.
is that playing different from playing in Nashville? With
Well, it's really, it's funny because people who are musicians, no matter where you live, it is a passion, and these people are dedicated no matter where you go with music. It's just something that's kind of in our blood. So no matter where I am, it's like pros, it's people that are, just in love with what they're doing. And I think really like the main difference for me is that back home, it's like these guys, they love doing music, but they're also very fine with just having like their, 9 to 5 jobs and then having music kind of as their escape from that. And then, in their passion. So they go and they play music, they make a little extra money, and they just like love that. And it's their passion. When it's here in Nashville, it's more about this is my career, this is how I make my living. And that's, that. So that's kind of the main difference. With my band Borderline, it's also a very family like oriented feeling because I've been with them so long. So it's this camaraderie that is like very special, and we know like all the harmony parts and we know everything like because it's been so many years. But yeah, so that's the main differences, I would say.
really enjoying talking to you, and you've gotten to open and play for some great artists like Lee Brice, Lone Star, Toby Keith. So what have been those experiences like for you?
Well, it's been really, I mean, really cool thing. A lot of that was with Borderline because we get to do a lot of fairs and festivals. Somehow we've kind of established ourselves enough to be invited to do those things, opening shows at big fairs. So Lee Brice was a pretty big show that we got to do. And he was one of the more warm, like welcoming of the artists. Like he actually invited us on his bus. We got to see how that was and everything. And it was really cool. He was just very down to earth and like low key and welcoming with us. There are other artists that we've opened for that we didn't get to meet that kind of just like, no, we're gonna like hang out in our bus and like not meet anybody. I mean, they might have met some fans or whatever, but and that's fine. I mean, everybody kind of has their own way of doing things. But Lee Bryce was one that was like just really nice to us. And then we got to meet Cassidy Pope and Lindsay L. And a few others. Oh gosh, what is the one? I can't think of it. Oh, Confederate Railroad. They were so nice. And they complimented me. Like I took a picture with them. I'll have to send that to you. It's on my Instagram somewhere. But they were really cool. So yeah, I mean, a lot of really neat people we got to meet in those experiences. So.
Learn more as an opener, like going out and watching those guys and watching how they did a show? And did you take any notes from those guys? to apply it to what you do back in Nashville?
I don't know. I mean, just really anybody that I see perform, it's just about the professionalism and the confidence and, because I think that I've heard a lot of artists can still be nervous to this day. Like they've performed for many years, but you still get little nerves. And some say it's like not even necessarily right if you don't, there's just something about that world and that life where, you got to feel those nerves and it's part of the whole experience. But every one of these people, like, just you could never see that nervousness. Like, it was just professional, it was energy, and they really just made you feel like you were a part of what was happening. And so I've definitely taken some notes from that for sure.
And I have to tell you that one of my favorite Stephanie Rabus songs, and this should tell you how big of a fan I am, is a song called Pray You Down. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that song was like for you and what you remember from that song?
Well, so a lot of the releases that I've done are songs that I have co-written. I just kind of wanted to stick with that for the most part. But if a song ever was presented to me or pitched to me that I just felt was like meant for me, I would go ahead and record that one. And that was the story with that one. From the time I heard it, it was just a beautiful song, and it was something that every single person could relate to because everyone has someone in their life that has passed and that they wish that they could talk to. They wish they could bring them down and talk to them about life for only a minute. So I thought it was a beautiful song when I first heard it, and it was actually like it was pitched to me, and then I was like, I'm interested. And then the writers came back and they're like, oh, wait a minute, actually, the publishing company is trying to pitch it to a major artist. And so several months went by and I never heard anything. And unfortunately, one of like my best friends in the whole world ended up passing away. And his name was Kenny Ziegler, and he was one of my former band members. He had quit the band like a few months prior to that, well, maybe over a year prior to it. But he was like a huge fan. Like he was my biggest fan. Like him and my dad and my boyfriend's mom, who also ended up passing away. And another reason why I recorded this song. Um, but he, meant so much to me. And I was like, oh, now I really need to record the song. And I had written actually the song that I now am getting ready to release. And that was gonna be the release. But then when my boyfriend's mom passed away, who I was very close with as well, I was like, no, we need to put that on the back burner because this song means way too much to me right now with these losses in my life. It was just hitting my heart, and it was like it needed to be out. So we went ahead and went with that one and released it. And, I've gotten a lot of people that have messaged me and said, like, thank you for that song. It really means a lot to me. That's exactly how I feel. And it makes people cry. And sometimes I'm like, I don't want to make you cry. But, I'm a person that I really like to feel my emotions, and music helps me with that. If I'm, in the past when I've gone through a breakup, like I would play sad breakup songs like over and over and over and like sing them to the top of my lungs. So that's the thing. I feel like emotions are in music, and it could be very helpful for people to relate to that. So,
Trust me, music is a healing power. And,
yeah.
and that's what I get when I listen to your music. And for anybody that hasn't listened to your music, how would you introduce them to your type of music?
Well, I would say it is just very real emotions that we go through in life. There's like a lot of party songs out there and like kind of goofy songs. I haven't really ventured in that direction other than one song on my album, Buying Time and Living Now. That's kind of like the party song on my album. But for the most part, I just write and record like real things that are things that people go through and emotions. So just very heartfelt messages, hopefully something that people can either kind of sit and cry with or maybe learn a lesson from. That's what I like to think my music would be.
For recording your album, What was the easiest song to track?
Oh gosh. To track. Well, so I wasn't even in the room for the tracking of the album, to be honest, in terms of that, like the actual recordings put together, because the way that the producer I had on that did it, I kind of gave her some direction on like what I wanted on certain songs, and then she made, scheduled these sessions and ended up doing like three songs at a time. And like I at the time was working in a restaurant and like for some reason we didn't have a communication on scheduling that for me to be there. But she went in and tracked everything, sent me everything back, and I literally listened to all the music and I like cried because I was like overwhelmed with how good everything was. I was like, this is my album? Like what? But there was like just a couple of things I had to tell her like I wanted fixed. But for the most part, everything ended up like pretty much the way that I wanted it to be. So in terms of tracking, I wouldn't even know what the easiest would be. I think in terms of like my favorites, the ones that kind of really hit, I guess like the style and genre feeling, I guess, of what I wanted. Like you did a number on me. It was like one of my favorites. I just felt like it was kind of like one of the most commercial, but also just very relatable because there are a lot of situations where you fall for someone pretty hard and then they kind of just mess you up pretty bad, and you get your heart broken pretty bad. So that is one that a lot of people can relate to. But I just love the sound of it, the production. There were certain notes that I asked with like I wanted the drums to build up on a certain part and everything was perfect on that. So,
Like that, but you talked about you having a new song coming out called I Told Me So. How
mhm.
did that song come to be?
This song was written by Mark Roma and a guy named Greg Matthews. This is a little bit depressing, but I did just find out that Greg Matthews just passed away. Yeah, so that's really hard because I did get the song recorded, the version that you heard, and then I sent it to the group message that Mark and Greg and I had from that writing session. And Mark got back to me and told me that Greg hadn't been doing well. And then a few days later, Mark let me know that Greg had passed. So it's definitely going to be in honor of him. But in the session, we were just talking about chasing dreams and how it's really hard, like to keep going sometimes because it's like there's all these ups and downs and there's these moments in life where you think like why am I even doing this? Like this is so hard. Like, why do I keep even trying? And then there's better moments. But so basically, what the song is about, like when you have those doubts in yourself, and then you start to see this a little peak in the light of belief in yourself, it's about holding on to that. And then one day looking at yourself in the mirror and being like, I told me so. Like, I knew I could do this. And that's what it's about, just not giving up on your dreams and proving to yourself, who's the biggest one you have to prove it to, that you can make those dreams come true.
Any more reason to go pre-order and pre-save that song? I don't have to hear a better excuse. That's a pretty good reason. And
Yeah.
what are you most excited about for 2026?
Well, I have a lot of opportunities. I've been doing a lot of networking with different clubs on Broadway, the honky tonks down there. And my dad's kind of taken the place of, being my manager. So he's really, really doing a lot of research and working hard to like get this thing off the ground. And I just believe like, even with his determination alone, that it's enough to like get something going because he believes strong. So there's a lot of things in the works. He's looking up a lot of different organizations and different things. I have some other opportunities to record some music coming up. There's a college that is doing recording and they are like offering services to kind of learn. So I'm working with them on some things. And yeah, I just see that, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be releasing music pretty regularly this year, which has been hard to do. But I think it's going to be happening, and I'm looking forward to it. My biggest dream and goal is to play the Grand Ole Opry. Um, for a long time, to play that, you had to be a signed artist. You had to be like a major artist. But nowadays, they're really letting independent artists play there. And so I kind of, would love to get to a place kind of with building my following and community and stuff to where the Opry can kind of see the value in inviting me to play there. So that's kind of my biggest dream and goal that we're working towards. Not that that would necessarily happen this year, but someday I would love to have that happen.
Well, everybody here at the KGC show will help you get one step closer because this is an artist that you must support. If you love good indie artists, if you love good country music, this is a young lady that you need to be keeping your eyes out for decades to come. She and a lot of artists like Miss Stephanie are great reasons why country music is still alive and better than ever, is because of great pure vocalists like her. And what advice would you have for any independent artist trying to do this?
Well, it's hard not to get discouraged, but just try not to. Try not to get in your head and really try to just like respect yourself and love yourself. Because when you have doubts in yourself, that's when it's hard. That's when you start to trip a little, because that has been a thing for me. Like I've struggled a bit with confidence through, on and off throughout the years. And if you don't believe in yourself, who else will? So you really do have to like be strong with that self-belief and self-love. But also, I had made a post about this a week or so ago, and I said, young people, if you have a dream, get on it because time really does fly by. And I don't mean that in a depressing way, but it's just kind of you don't realize when you're young, like that it's going to go that quickly in that time. So really take every moment and just learn and then do and make sure the do like happens because I do a lot of learning. I do a lot of research. And sometimes I hesitate on actually implementing what I learned. So please implement because that's where you're going to get those results a little bit quicker. If I had it to do over, that's what I would do. I would not get in my head as much as I had throughout the years. And I would just like get moving on some things a little bit faster.
Great answer. Stephanie, when all of this new music gets released, you want to come back and share with us?
Yeah, definitely.
Always got a spot here at the KGC show. Thank you so much for being here. And this has been my honor. Where can people go to keep up with you?
Well, pretty much any social media that exists right now and any streaming services. So, we got Facebook, we got Instagram, we got TikTok, we got X or, Twitter, YouTube. Please subscribe to my YouTube. That one's struggling a bit. We need to build that one up some. And I mean, pretty much anywhere else, I mean, that exists in social media. Then we have Apple Music, we have Spotify, all of those places. I have lyric videos on my YouTube, and I'm getting a little bit more consistent with the TikToks and the shorts. That's going to be getting better and better as we go. So yeah, please follow me there. I would love that.
And I have to mention this. I wasn't going to, but you do incredible Facebook Lives of when you go live
Oh
downtown
yeah.
Nashville. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that's like for you?
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, I just like to stream, live, kind of let the video go, and you get to kind of see every moment of what's happening. And sometimes that includes, if we don't have a crowd, we might be up on the stage kind of him hawing around, talking and laughing. And a lot of times I have some musicians who played with other music like big artists, I've had Toby Keith's bass player, obviously Scotty, so we've had some good musicians tell some cool stories, and but then when we have a good crowd, you get to see how much fun we're having. You get to see that interaction, the little holler and swallers that we do, and it's a good time all around. But I really do just like to share that with people who can't be in Nashville to see that. So.
Ladies and gentlemen, the next big thing out of Nashville today, our friend and yours, the incredibly talented Stephanie Rabus. Thank you again to Jerry for hooking this up and putting this together. And thank you again, Stephanie, for joining me here once again. Come back and see us soon.
Thank you for having me.
Love you guys. Love one another. See you real soon.